Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt lonelier than when you were single? Like you're physically with someone, yet emotionally you're miles apart. A vast, silent canyon separating you? If so, you're not just a casualty of a bad romance. You're part of a widespread phenomenon. Studies consistently show that a significant portion of people in long-term relationships, some research suggests as high as 1 in 4, report feeling profoundly lonely. The cultural script tells us that a partnership is the ultimate cure for loneliness, but reality often presents a much harsher truth. Relationships aren't always the happily ever after we were promised, but if a relationship isn't the answer, the alternative of solitude often feels terrifying. So we are faced with a stark choice: embrace the perceived emptiness of being alone, or remain shackled to a connection that drains the very life from us. Why are we so intensely afraid of our own company? This exploration will delve into why choosing to be alone might be the most empowering decision you can make, leading to a life of radical freedom, deep fulfillment, and authentic self-discovery. We will dismantle the societal pressures that push us into relationships, examine the neuroscience and psychology that make solitude a superpower, and uncover how being alone is the ultimate teacher of what we truly desire in life and in love. There's a specific type of isolation that is universally understood. It's the feeling of being at a bustling party, surrounded by laughter and conversation, yet feeling utterly invisible, as if you were a ghost observing the living. You venture to share a passion, a new interest, and are met with the look, a subtle, disinterested glance of disdain that makes you feel small, unwanted, and out of place. Now, transpose that feeling into your own home, with the one person who is supposed to know and cherish you more than anyone. It's a quiet, creeping loneliness that builds over time. It starts with the small things. Conversations become transactional. Laughter becomes a memory. Soon, the silence between you isn't peaceful. It's a roaring void, louder and more painful than any argument. You are together, technically, but it is a hollow, fragile togetherness you never dreamed of. The uncomfortable truth is that the wrong relationship is a far lonelier place than solitude. It's an active, draining loneliness, fueled by the emotional labor of constantly questioning your every move. Am I at fault? What did I do wrong? Why can't I make this person happy? This self-interrogation gives way to the psychological weight of walking on eggshells, of shrinking yourself to maintain a fragile peace. For many, it escalates into the insidious forms of manipulation, gaslighting, or emotional neglect, which methodically chip away at your sense of self until you no longer recognize the person in the mirror. Your individuality vanishes. Your YouTube homepage slowly morphs from your hobbies into a desperate library of relationship hacks and secrets to keep your partner happy. The relationship ceases to be a source of nourishment and becomes a chore, a second job for which you are paid in anxiety. Staying in such a relationship is like trying to keep a sinking ship afloat. In a panic, you start throwing your most valuable possessions overboard. Your passions, your friendships, your values, the very things that make you you. The more you sacrifice, the more exhausted you become, yet the ship continues its indifferent descent into the abyss. So why do we stay? Why do so many of us cling to the wreckage? A great deal of it comes down to the sunk cost fallacy, the mistaken belief that because you've invested so much time, emotion, and effort, you must continue, lest all that investment be for naught. We are also conditioned by the pervasive illusion of togetherness. Movies, social media, and well-meaning family advice relentlessly paint a picture of romantic bliss, where love is a magical force that conquers all. This narrative is so powerful that we often feel like personal failures when our reality doesn't match the fairy tale, rarely acknowledging that the fairy tale itself is the fiction. Mismatched expectations create a chasm of isolation. You crave deep connection, but your partner is unwilling or unable to meet you there. As that gap widens, you internalize the failure, believing something is fundamentally wrong with you. All of this unfolds against the backdrop of life's inherent challenges, so you just live with it. And slowly, quietly, something vital inside you starts to crumble. Then there is the crushing weight of cultural baggage. In many communities, leaving a relationship, no matter how toxic, is seen as an unforgivable failure. You're bombarded with platitudes. Marriage is sacred, or you just need to try harder. The pressure extends beyond family and friends. Religion and tradition often reinforce the idea that enduring unhappiness is a noble, virtuous act. But let's be brutally honest. Staying in the wrong relationship doesn't make you stronger. It doesn't make you noble. It makes you smaller. It is a parasitic arrangement that only takes. You contort yourself to fit into a mold that was never meant for you, and in the process, you lose the most important connection of all, the one with yourself. So perhaps it's time to reframe the question. Instead of asking, "What if I'm alone?" we should be asking, "What if I'm free?" We live in a world that pathologizes solitude, often confusing it with the unwanted state of loneliness. But they are not the same. Loneliness is a painful, involuntary lack of connection. Solitude is a conscious, voluntary choice to be with oneself. It is a space you intentionally carve out, a pocket dimension for limitless growth. As the theologian Paul Tillich wrote, language has created the word, loneliness, to express the pain of being alone. And it has created the word, solitude, to express the glory of being alone. Philosophers have long understood this distinction. Friedrich Nietzsche, a champion of self-overcoming, saw solitude as the crucible in which a great spirit is forged. He famously wrote, "In solitude, the lonely man is eaten by himself, among crowds, by the many. Choose which you prefer." For Nietzsche, solitude wasn't a retreat, but an essential training ground for the Übermensch, the individual who transcends societal norms to create their own values. Similarly, Søren Kierkegaard viewed solitude as the only path to an authentic self, a space where one could confront existence without the distracting noise of the crowd. But what if you don't seek a higher purpose and simply want to stop hurting? All the more reason to embrace solitude. When you are alone, you reclaim a profound freedom. You can finally ask the questions that are drowned out by the compromises and expectations of a relationship. What do I truly want? What lights me up? What are my non-negotiables? Answering these questions isn't easy, but the process is revelatory. A single session of authentic self-reflection can avert a path that might otherwise set you back decades. History is filled with figures who used solitude as their muse. Artist Frida Kahlo famously said, "I paint self-portraits because I am so often alone, because I am the person I know best." Her solitude wasn't a void. It was the canvas for her most powerful work. In spiritual traditions, solitude is paramount. Buddhist monks retreat into silence not to escape the world, but to understand it, and themselves, more deeply. They practice mindfulness to find clarity in the stillness, a clarity that is impossible when one's mind is cluttered with the anxieties of a failing relationship. We are terrified of being forgotten, of being the proverbial tree that falls in the forest with no one around. We chase visibility, losing ourselves in trends and unfulfilling relationships to prove that we exist and matter. But here's a question worth pondering. Is it better to be the tree that falls loudly, noticed for a moment by everyone, or the tree that stands quietly for a century, its fruit nourishing the ecosystem around it? Your life doesn't need to be a spectacle to have meaning. True significance is not measured in societal milestones like marriage, but in the value you create, the authentic connections you nurture, and the quiet inspiration you provide. That is the essence of living authentically, not for the applause, but for the impact. What if being alone wasn't a burden, but a gateway to unparalleled freedom? Solitude offers a liberation that is threefold: autonomy, independence, and the luxury of time. When you are alone, you are the sole navigator of your life. Every decision, from career moves to travel plans to lifestyle changes, is yours alone. Want to quit your corporate job and backpack through Southeast Asia? Go for it. Thinking of moving to a new city for a pottery class? Nothing is stopping you. Your choices become pure, unadulterated reflections of your true self. This extends to financial and emotional independence. Being single allows you to invest entirely in yourself. Every paycheck is a universe of possibility, not a negotiation. You can build an emergency fund, start a business, or simply afford guilty pleasures without compromise or justification. Sociological research even challenges the stereotype of the lonely single person. Studies by sociologists like Eric Klinenberg have found that single people are often more connected to their communities, friends, and families than their married counterparts, who tend to turn inward. Emotional independence is perhaps the greatest gift. It is the process of developing a core of self-worth that is not contingent on external validation. You learn to be your own source of comfort, your own cheerleader, your own safe harbor. But the ultimate freedom solitude offers is time. Unfettered time to explore passions to their fullest extent. Whether it's learning a new language, mastering an instrument, or reading every book on your shelf, solitude provides the deep focus required for mastery and joy. A study by Harvard Health Publishing confirmed that people who dedicate time to hobbies report significantly higher levels of happiness and lower levels of stress. Solitude is the incubator for these pursuits. Want to practice the guitar for 9 hours straight even if you're playing the wrong chords? You won't bother anyone. This freedom from judgment and negotiation does wonders for the psyche. It's not just about fun. It's about deliberate, focused personal growth. You can finally hear your own thoughts. Of course, the fear of this freedom can lead us down the path of settling. Many people stay in draining relationships simply to avoid the single label, trapping themselves in a state of quiet desperation. This choice may feel safe at first, a shield against the imagined void of being alone. But over time, staying leads to a corrosive blend of regret and resentment. You sacrifice your core values and sense of self to maintain a connection that offers little more than the absence of solitude. And the longer you stay, the harder it is to leave. This settling takes a massive emotional toll, leading to burnout and fatigue from the constant effort of pretending. You're not avoiding loneliness, you're trapped in a partnership that isolates you in a more insidious way. This often devolves into codependency, where your sense of self-worth becomes completely entangled with another person. Your identity takes a back seat, and in some cases is left behind entirely. Instead of two whole individuals choosing to be together, you have two fragmented people using each other as emotional crutches. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and interdependence, not a desperate fusion of identities. The silver lining here is that breakups, while painful, can be profoundly transformative. Society frames them as failures, but what if we reframe them as opportunities to finally date ourselves? Treat it as choosing a relationship with yourself over a failing one with someone else. Go on solo dates, relearn your hobbies, fall in love with your own mind and your own company. A breakup is like clearing out a cluttered closet. It's messy and emotional, but afterward, you have space for things that truly fit and that you genuinely love. Why are we so afraid of this process? The fear of being alone is deeply wired into our biology. For millennia, human survival depended on being part of a tribe. Banishment meant certain death. Our brains are therefore hardwired with a primal alarm system that equates being alone with danger. This isn't just a preference for company. It's a survival mechanism. This is reflected in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where love and belonging come right after physiological needs and safety. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo's research demonstrated that the brain regions activated by loneliness are the same ones activated by physical pain. The ache isn't just in your head. Your body is screaming that you're in danger. Understanding this allows us to have compassion for our fear, but it doesn't mean we have to be ruled by it. Running from loneliness by endlessly scrolling social media, overscheduling, or jumping into relationships never makes it go away. It only postpones the inevitable. The real solution is learning to sit with it. This is where mindfulness and self-compassion become crucial. Self-compassion is treating yourself with the kindness you'd offer a friend, acknowledging, "This is hard, and that's okay." Mindfulness allows you to observe the feeling of loneliness without judgment, to see it not as a permanent state of being, but as a transient signal, a signal that you are longing for connection, either with others or, more importantly, with yourself. Practices like meditation, journaling, and even mindful walks create a space for clarity and a stronger connection to your inner world. Loneliness is like a wave. If you fight it, it will pull you under. If you learn to float, you'll realize it will pass, and in its wake, you can find peace. And here's the good news. You don't need a romantic partner to feel connected. Some of the most profound connections in our lives are platonic. Deep, meaningful friendships, community involvement, and shared hobbies are powerful antidotes to loneliness. When you are part of a book club, a sports team, or a volunteer group, you are reminded that you are part of something larger than yourself. This brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the philosophy of intentional solitude. This is more than just being alone. It's a deliberate mindset, a conscious choice to turn inward. Intentionality is the key that transforms a potential prison into a sanctuary. It provides the space to think clearly, process life's complexities, and hear your own inner wisdom. The Stoics were masters of this. They believed true freedom comes from mastering your inner world, not from external circumstances. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." For the Stoics, solitude was a mental gymnasium for building emotional resilience. One of its most profound benefits is that it allows you to make better decisions about relationships. When you are comfortable and fulfilled on your own, you are less likely to settle out of fear. You approach potential partners from a place of want, not need, of self-assurance, not desperation. A relationship built on desperation is like a house with a shaky foundation, destined to crumble. Buddhism and Stoicism both teach that solitude is not the end goal. You don't retreat to isolate yourself forever. Rather, it is the training ground where you cultivate self-awareness and emotional strength. Once you are comfortable in your own skin, you can engage with the world more authentically and build healthier, stronger relationships. Ultimately, intentional solitude teaches us life's most valuable lesson. We are enough, just as we are. Our worth is not determined by our relationship status, our social media likes, or the number of friends we have. It is inherent. We started with the question, what's worse, choosing solitude or staying in a draining relationship? The answer should now be clear. True loneliness doesn't come from being by yourself. It comes from being disconnected from yourself. Solitude is not something to fear. It is something to embrace. It is the space where you discover who you are, what you value, and what truly makes you happy. When and if the time comes to share your life with someone, you will do so from a place of wholeness, not emptiness. Choosing to be alone isn't a rejection of relationships. It's a refusal to settle for anything less than a connection that honors and elevates your true self. Remember this: solitude isn't an ending. It's a beginning. It's not isolation. It's freedom. And from that freedom, you can build a life that is truly, authentically, and completely whole, whether you choose to walk it alone or alongside someone who truly sees and celebrates you. Because it is far better to be alone than to wish you were.